What's up, guys? Debo here. It's been a long time. As you guys know, I used to do a lot of Diablo 3 content. We kind of all know how that kind of ended up with Diablo 3 moving into a direction where I no longer wanted to support it or play it. And since that time, I've been playing a lot of different games and streaming a lot of different things, and no game really has cotton hold of me until I was actually able to get my hands on the Lost Ark Korean open beta. So I'm just going to go over some things I like about it. What things you can expect when you start playing it, and what's going on in general, and what they're planning on doing with the game for the future. So the first thing I wanted to get into today is talking about the action RPG element. A lot of the big things when you think of action RPG is constantly being able to control your character, ducking and dodging around the screen, constant skills being cast, enemies always throwing different things at you, you reacting towards them, the gear and the loot system, how do the skills play, am I building my own character from scratch, what skills can I choose, to what depth do those skills go, what do the drops do, how is the gear basically relatable to your character. Is it a gear set that basically try to influences your skills, or is it just like, whatever you can pretty much grab and pick up, or whatever you can craft and all that good stuff? And overall, does the game have a lot of replayability and different scaling effects that normal action RPGs do? And I'm very happy to say this actually does have a lot of depth to, the sense of it being the traditional action RPG. You can go around killing monsters. The monsters go ahead and drop nice different pieces of loot and certain items. You can harvest stuff from the environment. You can use all of these different things to build yourself some nice gear sets and stuff like that. There's a lot of replayability in the end game in terms of when you're progressing your character with gear level and what have you not. It's always interesting while you're leveling as you're acquiring new skills and abilities and ultimate skills to use with inside the battle. And it feels very rewarding when you play with this type of combat, because it's like it's a risk reward system. If you like to play really aggressive versus a boss and like to try to get up in his face and land as much damage you can too, as long as you're able to, duck and dodge all the abilities that they do. Or if you like to play a little bit more reserved or a little bit more supportive of your team, you can definitely do that. In terms of all the skills are very in-depth. Every single skill that each character has, except for the ultimate skills, of course, have different 3 tiers of upgrading, and each individual tier actually has 3 different skills, or how you make each individual skills behave. So like in a reference towards back to how Diablo 3 was, you'd have one skill would have maybe 4 or 5 different little interchangeable little elements of the skill. So you can make this one, let's say this one does frost damage, or this one does electricity damage and it stuns the opponent. Lost Ark actually incorporated pretty much the same exact thing. However, they took it to another level. On the first tier of a skill, if you decide to invest into it, it has 3 different ways you can make your ability. So let me give you an example. We have, let's just say, we're going to summon a golem. That golem at the first level, if you invested on the first tier, might have something like extends the duration the golem stays out. You might have one tab that says this one will make the golem do more damage, and this one will be defensive. And then once you invest more points into it, then you lock the second tier. And the second tier will have a whole nother set of different stipulations and conditions, or whatever ways you want to fine tune the golem. And then of course on the last tier usually has like the final 2, which you can actually, the strongest abilities or strongest unlocks for a skill, in which you can choose. And the coolest thing about it, any of those levels you can go back and change the way you want to. So just because for one battle you might have it for like, my golem stays alive longer and it's more defensive. Maybe on the next dungeon where you just need to burn the boss down real quick, you might change the settings so that your golem, when it gets activated, does more damage. Now here's the key thing. You just can't change whenever you want to. You do have to reset if you want to reset that whole entire skill point. So basically, once you invest 3 ranks into a certain skill, you're actually allowed to switch however you want that skill to behave, but you invested your points into getting that skill to that maximized level to open up the potential of that set skill. and you have a certain limited amount of skill points that you can use. So not all your skills are going to be getting to max level 3. You might take one skill to max level 1. You might take one skill to 2. You might take some of your higher ranking spells or the spells you want to focus around to rank 3. So the way they did that, I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think they executed that very well, at least for how the skills interact in the game. The next thing I want to talk about in the action RPG sense is basically how the loot is basically divvied out. You get a lot of your loot from your actually killing the monsters out on the open field. There's certain specialty monsters you can kill that you can get loot from as well. You can also get gear from world bosses. Also, when you do these dungeon runs like you see on the screen here, they let you know what types of gear is going to drop. And the way they actually started structuring it is they said, okay, we're going to go ahead and give you a gear. We're going to assign an item level to it. It's going to drop from the minimum item level, let's just say of 100 to 140. So when you run that dungeon, you might get that back piece, that cape, that chest, or anything that you like, but it's going to be anywhere from item level 100 to whatever the max is, 140. So it can be 120 on a run, it could be 130, you could be 140. You can rerun it again, hopefully get a better, higher item level. And that kind of brings back kind of the grindy kind of aspect and stuff like that. And a lot of the towards the in-game stuff is basically back behind whatever your item level is. So when I ran a dungeon over and over again, it was always pretty intriguing. The nice thing is I never felt like I was wasting my time. I always was picking up item, currencies, money, and other things I can use to help facilitate the growth of my character and making it stronger. And one of the coolest things about it is that with the systems, there's no restrictions. If you just want to run the dungeon by yourself, you can run it in normal mode. If you want to get the higher level drops, then of course you can run it in hard mode. And even if you don't use all the equipment on a run, like I said, you can dismantle it and use that to power up future gear that you get. So in terms of how they got everything laid out, this is where it kind of leads into the Mmorpg system. It actually has a very, very structured system on how are you going to gear up. But it also provides other options for if you want to get alternative sets of gear in case you just don't want to grind out the dungeons, or if you want to seek out a different path when you're increasing the item level or the power of your character. And the last little bit of the action RPG part of the game I just want to discuss. So a lot of people like the fact that you can go ahead and just go ahead and kill a lot of monsters. People like the fact that there's a lot of interactable environments in most action RPGs, and then they have these different dungeons and different stuff that makes it feel like an action RPG in most of the games that they play. Like PoE, for instance, they have maps. In Diablo 3, they have the Endless Tower. The cool thing about Lost Ark, it actually has a combination of everything kind of like that. For the most part, you'll be doing a lot of raids, which is one-shot bosses that you just basically go in and try to raid down. You get a certain stipulation of time to do it. You also have the hard mode dungeons. You also have the chaos dungeons, which are just basically harder versions of the chaos dungeons that help, or the regular dungeons that help progress your gear. You even have an endless tower that has 50 floors, and after you clear that one, you gain access to the other one. They have different event rooms where you go in and you climb through these different rooms, and the stronger your characters are and the more well you do and the more you clear, the further you can go into it and get more treasure. So I just have to really commend Lost Ark developers on that. They did a real good job of definitely giving you that action RPG feel in terms of like, stuff to do for the in-game content, or always having something to grind out and something like that. So I definitely do commend them on that, and they did a fantastic job with that. Alright, for the MMORPG aspect of the game, they have a very well structured quest system. They have the main quest and the side quest. The main quest will progress everything you need to know through the game and get you set up with knowing all the different mechanics between the crafting, the polishing, the enchanting of gear, how the dungeons work, hard mode, regular modes. It's a very well structured game, and I think they did a very good job, even at some points where they're even giving you a ship to actually explore the actual different continents while you're progressing through the main story arc quest. There's enough sideline quests and things, exploring with your pirate ship or whatever ship you want to call it, and going through the world to keep yourself occupied in that sense if you like to explore and do different things, or if you just like to be a regular player that just kind of sticks to the main path of just doing all the main quests and stuff. You can also do that too without the game having you to force you to do a bunch of side stuff that you don't like. There's a lot of depth to the whole Mmorpg structure of the game. I definitely like how they did the raid tier systems and how they did the gear drops. That's pretty cool. It still has the grindy elements and stuff like that, and other ways for you to increase your gear level outside of just doing the quest or, you know, doing the regular different dungeon runs. So that's always enjoyable and switches up the pace of gameplay. And not to mention the infinite potential, since you're allowed to actually build your own ship and then put your own crew on it and explore different parts of the world. So if there's any players that are worried about the MMORPG aspect of it, don't worry about it. It does not diminish the game. Very enjoyable, and it offers a lot of potential to what they can actually do with the continent and the world of Lost Ark, and how many different regions and zones we could actually end up going to. In terms of the how the game actually plays, as you guys can see on the screen, I actually really do enjoy it. As you can see, they use the Q, W, E, R, and then of course the I do believe that's the A, S, D, and F keys. You do have your X button, which acts on the X key. Will cycle through all your different ultimates of your classes. On the summoner class, for at least different classes do play a little bit differently. You basically move with your correct me if I'm wrong, with my left click, I do believe. I think I moved with, I'm not too crazy. I'm pretty sure it's my left click. Yeah, it's my left click. And then basically you can do your auto attacks with your right click, or you can by hitting the C key. On your right hand side, you can see that we got your 1, 2, 3, and 4 will be utilized for different potions and things you use in battle, like your stun potion, defensive potions, you know, things of that nature. And then of course, you know, you got a couple functions here and there with your F1 and F2 keys. Your F2 key will pull up all the different songs and musical compositions you play, which have different effects inside the game. But overall, the gameplay is very fast-paced. If you guys play a lot of PoE, I like PoE. I think the system structure is great and it's fantastic. But a lot of people feel like the PoE gameplay plays a little bit slow. But I mean, that's the only thing anybody ever complains about. It's the gameplay is very fast and quick-paced, and the enemies play fast and quick plays. So if you're not reacting quick enough, you can get caught up in certain chains and combinations that will kill you, which is nice because it makes it so that you actually always have to be on top of your toes and never basically relax a little bit too much without risking your life. And you really don't want to die, because the punishment from death is pretty horrible runbacks, or just basically actually up to the point of, even in some raids where you only allotted so many deaths on a team, and then the raid encounter ends promptly with a game over screen. The spacebar is also a nice addition to it. The one thing about Diablo, if you guys remember in Diablo 3 on the console version, they actually had a tactical roll on the analog stick, which would allow you to roll out of things, which helped out a lot. And then a lot of people were like, hey, are you going to plan on adding that into the actual PC game? And Blizzard never did that. But the tactical roll, or the action button as I call it, that allows you to dodge and move while in combat, is grafted to the space bar. And let me tell you, that is a fantastic key that the key is well placed in the space bar, but it's a fantastic addition to the game that really just shows you what the potential is when a developer understands how to put the action back in action RPG. If any other action RPG developers actually end up ever listening to this or anything like that, they can take note from Lost Ark, because with that addition to the ability to basically dodge back and forth and you know, basically have an ability to you know, escape out of a last minute AoE or effect of the boss monster is fantastic. So now with that ability in the game, or with that little function, they could actually design boss encounters to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more crazy, because it really makes you think and tread caution when you hit that space bar, because once you use your dodge roll ability, you're kind of open up for whatever the boss wants to throw crazy at you. If he wants to do a bunch of laser beams, you won't have the ability to get out of it. And I think that's a very fantastic mechanic that they incorporate into the game. With that being said, the gameplay is really smooth. I enjoy how all the skills play. At first, it's a little bit awkward double tapping the key to actually, pop off the skill and what have you not. The ultimate abilities, like when you're using your skills, eventually you charge an ability, then you're gonna release like this great amount of devastation. Not to mention the ultimate skills that classes have. The gameplay and the feel is crisp and clean. I have had no issues, no problems, and I never felt like I was in a situation due to bad controls or bad movement where I was being punished. The game is very responsive, very fluid, and they just did a fantastic job on how the actual game plays. Alright, so in the last little bit of these gameplay talk, we already went through the action RPG element, the Mmorpg element, questing, how the game controls, skills, and classes is the last thing I kind of wanted to go over real quick. Lost Ark, for the most part, I do believe they have, I think it's 4 to 5 base classes. Don't quote me on that. They have a lot of things they're planning, but they have a good number of base classes. Actually, now that I think about it, it's 1, 2, 3, it's 4 base classes. Each individual class has 3 different classes that they grow into. So, for instance, the base classes, I don't know the actual correct terminology for it, but let's say the base class is Wizard. It turns into then 3 different classes. One of which I do know, the Summoner. That's the gameplay you're seeing on my screen right now. One type, which is also the Bard, which is the supportive class, which I'm leveling up right now. And then the first one, of course, is like into some type of caster / I'm gonna flip around and throw a lot of crazy spells at you type of build. And every single different base class has that, and they actually plan on adding more additional extra classes in the future. So just right off the bat, the in-depthness, or just basically the variety of what you can build is fantastic. Every single class feels like its own individual class. They share some basic elements, but for the most part, they play completely differently. And that's one thing I really like, because in Diablo, you kind of are limited between what classes you want to play. I don't know who really has the advantage. I don't really know the meta in terms of what the best class is, but in terms of just fun and hopping inside the game, there's something for everybody. They have the different tank class, or maybe I want to go a giant, tank-like guy, but maybe he swings a two-handed sword, so that's like the berserker. Maybe I want to be the range class, but the range classes have something like, okay, I want to be a range class that uses pistols. I want to be a range class that uses a big hunting gun, or maybe the traditional bow and arrow. So there's a lot of variety. So once you get done playing one type of character, you might want to explore, your base class in another role. Like I started off playing the Summoner, and now I'm going back to the base class of playing the game, which is the Wizard or whatever. And then except this time, I'm going to make it a Bard. And that opens up a whole nother level of gameplay and a lot more things that I can do. So in terms of the classes, everything seems to be really good. All the different class combination works. Certain classes do a little bit easier than other words. Like if you have a Bard in your group, it'll make things a lot easier than if you don't. But all the content for the most part right now can be finished with any combination of characters, which is a fantastic thing, because you don't want to feel like I have to bring a certain class into a certain fight. I mean, of course, it will make it easier, but it's not necessary. And the only thing I kind of want to just finish off with is just overall, again, we kind of went over about the skills early on in the video, but the skill system is really solid. I hope they add more skills and stuff like that with future updates and what goes on, but I just really like the ability that they give you 2 different tabs, so you can switch between however skills you want to build up. So as you level, you'll get one talent tree or one tab for whatever kind of skills you want to make for raiding. Or whatever you want to do, or for like maybe a leveling setup. And then you might have one where you have it's for specifically raiding, or you might have another one secondary for for PvP aspects. So right off the bat, they definitely understand what the players needed. I'm not too for sure if the cash shop actually offers anything in terms of ways to add additional tabs or anything like that. If they have that would be fantastic, because I think that's a pretty fair way to do it. You get 2 free tabs. You can set one preset skill set one way and another, and then if you want more, you pay support and help the developers in the game and what have you not. So overall, Lost Ark, I'm actually excited to make content for. I'm actually excited to stream it. If you guys have been tuning into the live stream and stuff like that. And so I'm going to be covering a lot of it. I'm trying to get ahead of the curve before it releases in America. It does have a North America and EU release. We can wait anywhere between 1 to 3 years. The reason why I say that is because we're not 100% for sure, you know, if it's going to come out within a year. We kind of see with like MapleStory 2 where, you know, we're behind like 2 to 3 years of the Korean server, but they are getting into the markets for EU and NA. They did confirm that, but they didn't want to give us a specific date. I'm kind of surprised that they don't really want to go into the China market because apparently some stuff is going on there too. I don't know. They have certain laws and rules and regulations going on. So hopefully this answers some of the questions that you guys have about Lost Ark. If you guys got any more, make sure you guys leave all your different comments down there in the comment section. If you guys want to check me out live, I'm at DeboSC2. SPS Debo on Twitch, so twitch.tv/SPS Debo. And of course, if you guys want to follow me so you see more of my content and what I'm going to be talking about for the future of Lost Ark, you can follow me on Facebook at DeboSC2, the YouTube DeboSC2, and of course Twitter's the same one. As you guys can see the little watermark over the bottom that has all my social media information. Make sure you guys hit that bell notification. That'll let you know when I put new content out or make new guides or whatever, just so you know that I'm on here. And if you can, please give me a subscribe. But that's about it. I'll go ahead and leave you rest the dungeon with the cinematic battle with this dragon right here. One of my favorite dungeons I enjoyed. I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.